You've probably heard that breast implants are one of the most studied medical devices on the planet. And for years, the debate has centered on silicone. But what if a key ingredient, something that makes up over a fifth of the implant shell, was a toxic component hiding in plain sight? So, that's the big question we're digging into. We're going to pull back the curtain on the science behind a long-held assumption and reveal how what seems like a simple oversight might just change our entire understanding of implant safety.
All right, so let's get right into it. At the heart of this whole thing is one specific ingredient. You see, to make a silicone implant shell strong and durable, manufacturers mix in a filler material, a certain type of silica that was designed to be completely harmless.
Okay, get ready for this name. Trimethylsilyl modified pyrogenic silica. Yeah, thankfully we can just call it TMS silica. And this stuff isn't just a trace element, it's a huge part of the shell. We're talking anywhere from 21 to 27%. Its key feature is this special chemical coating that makes all the little particles repel water. The logic was simple. If it can't interact with water, it can't interact with the body. It's supposed to be biologically inert. And that little word, supposedly, well, that's where this whole story really kicks off. And look, for years, this was the core assumption. The entire safety argument rested on this one idea, that this protective, water-repellent shield was permanent, that it was impenetrable.
Okay, but this is where things get interesting. When patient advocacy groups started really digging into the old safety reports, they found something, well, something that had been missed for decades. What they found was this pattern. Again and again, across all the major safety reviews. You look at industry groups back in '95, the UK government in '98, panels for US lawsuits, even the huge landmarked Institute of Medicine report. And every single time, you see the same little note. Silica? Not assessed.
And listen, this isn't us interpreting things. This is a direct quote from what's considered the most respected safety report out there. The 2000 Institute of Medicine report says it flat out, quote, "The toxicology of silica has not been reviewed." I mean, a massive blind spot right there in black and white. So, to really get a sense of how big this oversight was, just think about this. There are more than 12,300 scientific studies out there on breast implants. A mountain of research, right?
Now, out of all of those, how many do you think even mention the word silica? Fewer than 60. It's like a footnote in the entire library of research.
But it gets even crazier. You want to know how many studies specifically look at the actual fumed silica that's used in the implants? Just two. Two out of over 12,000. It's an incredible research gap.
So, okay, why is this such a big deal? It all comes down to what happens when you put any foreign object into the human body. Because that initial idea of a stable, inert material, it doesn't really account for the body's incredibly aggressive defense system.
It's called the foreign body reaction, and honestly, it's like a full-on military operation. First, your body identifies the implant as an invader. Second, it launches an attack, sending in swarms of immune cells. And third, those cells try to corrode the enemy. They just unleash this chemical cocktail, corrosive stuff called reactive oxygen species, or ROS for short, and they create this super acidic environment right there on the surface of the implant.
So just picture that. This supposedly inert, stable implant is just sitting in this chemical bath 24/7 for years on end. This is not a peaceful environment. It's a chemical battlefield, and it's designed to break things down. And that includes those materials and coatings that everyone assumed would last forever.
And that brings us to the real heart of this new science. Researchers started asking a critical question. What happens if that protective coating on the silica actually fails? What is the real nature of the material underneath?
So, a really groundbreaking study in 2012 uncovered something huge. It turns out not all amorphous silica is created equal, not even close. See, the kind of implants, it's called pyrolytic or fumed silica. It's made in this crazy hot flame process. And what that does is it basically freezes the material in this really unstable, highly reactive state. So if that protective coating ever fails, the stuff underneath is inherently toxic. Now contrast that with other types like colloidal silica. That's made at low temperatures. It's stable, it's relaxed, it's non-toxic. We're talking about a fundamental difference in their very nature.
So what makes it so reactive? Well, it comes down to these things called strained three-membered rings.
And the best way to picture these, think of them like tiny molecular springs that have been wound up super tight during that high heat manufacturing process. And if they get exposed to the body's environment, those springs can just snap. And when they do, they release this burst of damaging energy in the form of more ROS.
All right, so let's put all the pieces together. How does this hidden chemical property actually link up to the very real health issues that thousands of patients have been reporting for years?
So here's the proposed chain reaction that connects all of this. Okay, step 1. The implant shell itself starts to break down. We've seen studies showing it can lose 16% of its thickness in just over 4 years. And when that happens, tiny silica nanoparticles are released. Step 2. The body's constant immune attack, with all that acid and ROS, strips away that protective coating on these little particles. And suddenly, that toxic core is exposed. And finally, step 3. Those molecular springs we talked about, they snap. They generate even more ROS, which damages nearby cells and could potentially trigger the kind of chronic inflammation we think drives conditions like BIALCL. That's a rare but very serious immune system cancer that's been linked specifically to breast implants.
So you can see how this new scientific understanding has totally shifted the conversation, and now patient groups and scientists are pushing regulators to take a hard second look.
And look, this isn't just some abstract scientific debate. In a letter to the US FDA, a Dutch patient organization put it plainly: by not investigating ingredients like this specific silica, potential causes for serious health conditions may be completely missed. It just highlights the urgent human stakes that are involved.
And that really leaves us with one final, and I think really crucial question. For decades, safety was built on an assumption about an ingredient that was, as we've seen, never really tested. But now we have new science that suggests that assumption could be seriously flawed. So the question for all of us is, if the science has changed, shouldn't our safety standards change right along with it?